Hi guys, welcome to my channel. My name is Karen, and in this video I am going to talk about the books that unfortunately did not do it for me. So to begin, I'm going to start talking about my top 3 most disappointing reads of 2017. So the first book that I want to talk about is When We Rise by Cliff Jones. Cliff Jones was a very important figure in San Francisco during the AIDS crisis here in the United States. He was a friend of Harvey Milk, so if you have seen the fantastic movie Milk, he is actually a character in that. When I first picked up this book, I was incredibly excited about it. I really wanted to read it. I knew that it was going to be a tough read, and it certainly was a tough read, but I was interested because the HIV crisis in this country, the United States, was just this horrific thing, and politicians were really not doing what they were supposed to do at the beginning. There was a lot of prejudice, there was a lot of homophobia, and I was really interested to read about it through the eyes and by the words of someone that was actually there and a very significant present figure. The reason why, unfortunately, this is in one of my top 3 disappointing books of the year list is because I felt that it was a little bit too self-serving. I think that Cliff Jones focused a lot on all of the boyfriends that he had and all of the sexual encounters that he had. And while personally that's fine because it is a story about his life, I was a lot more interested in what was going on in the organization, just how everything was happening. I wasn't that interested in reading about who Cliff Jones was sleeping with at that certain time. There was just a lot of descriptions about hot encounters and sexual partners, and I'm not a prude, but it was just, I felt that it was unnecessary because the topic that he was dealing with was so incredibly huge and sad and just catastrophic that I just felt like it lessened the book. My second disappointing read is unfortunately The Miniaturist by Jessie Burton. If you don't know what this is about, you probably already do because it's an extremely popular book here on YouTube. It's a historical fiction novel set in Amsterdam about a girl who I believe lives in the 1700s, and she's very young and she marries an older man, and he gives her a miniature like toy home, and then strange things start to happen. The reason why I didn't like this book was because it reminded me of The Grace Keepers by Christy Logan. The Grace Keepers was one of the most disappointing books for last year for me, and the reason why it was because it's filled with so many good things, and I felt like the author never took it as far as it could. The Miniaturist for me was incredibly predictable. I could predict everything that was going to happen, and I felt that the most special parts of the book, like I said, were not exploited enough. And even though Jessie Burton did a fantastic job at setting the scene and she did a really great job with the historical fiction aspect, I felt that it kind of was a soap opera at times. And finally, my third most disappointing read of the year was a Gustav Sonata by... Ooh, I didn't write the name. Oh no, I'll insert the name somewhere here. This was a book that I actually really enjoyed reading, but I felt that it was missing a lot of pages. This book is really short and it skips a lot of years, and I felt that that was not the right decision. I wanted more from this book. I wanted more time with these characters. If you don't know what the Gustav Sonata is, it's about a young boy, or actually it's about two, it really does have kind of 2 significant main characters. And they lived in Switzerland. Switzerland is very famous for not really taking any sides, specifically during World War II. And one of the main characters is Jewish, and you just follow this relationship. There are LGBT themes in here, there are Jewish themes in here, and I just felt that it was a great novel, but it just needed so many more pages, and I hate that these like big chunks of these characters' lives were missing because the writer decided to just skip over them. It does have some great language, and it is a really good book. I would suggest people to go ahead and get it. But like I said, you might be left with that feeling of wanting more. And now on to the books that I did not finish this year. The first is The Essex Serpent by Sarah Perry. I know. This is probably one of the most popular books on BookTube this year, but I did not like it. I did not see what everybody else saw in it. For me, it was not a special historical fiction book in any way. The writing was average, the story was predictable. If you don't know what the Essex Serpent is about, like I said, historical fiction novel. It follows a woman who, after the death of her husband, she finally has the opportunity to live the life that she wants and to go and explore. She's really interested in the natural world, and she heads to a town where there is apparently an Essex serpent, that this magical, crazy, big serpent that's just this monster of the sea. And there's a lot of hysteria in the town because people start dying. And the premise of it seems so good, but again, it's one of those books that I felt was predictable, and that I felt that it was filled with fantastic elements that were not explored. Like, for example, the relationship between the main female character and her son, who is clearly in the autistic spectrum. I wanted so much more out of that relationship. And I stopped reading this book when I had about 100 pages left. So I have a pretty good idea of it. It's not like I left it, you know, within 100 pages or with 50 pages read and I was like, yeah, I don't want to read this, and I don't really have an idea of how the story was going, because I almost finished it, you know. But like I said, I think it's one of those books that's extremely overhyped. Then I am very, very disappointed to say that I did not finish Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte. This is, I think, my 4th attempt at reading this book, and unfortunately, I couldn't follow through. I couldn't finish it. There's something about Jane Eyre that bores me to death. And I know that this is such a popular book, that so many people say that Jane Eyre is her favorite book of all time. And frankly, I don't understand why. Maybe 2018 will be the year, maybe. And finally, the last book that I did not finish this year was Liberace the Diviners. This was another book that I'm kind of sad I did not finish, because as a child I really loved the Great and Terrible Beauty series by Liberace. It's my second favorite series after Harry Potter, so I was really excited to read something else by her. But this was just bad. I mean, it was so cheesy and cliche and unsurprising, and I felt like every time she made a decision, it was just worse. Like every time she took the story somewhere new, it was just in another bad direction. I did not like anything about it. It follows a group of young teenagers in the 1920s who have paranormal abilities, and there is this really evil ghost that starts killing people in 1920s New York. It sounds really fun, and I'm pretty sure that if you are a YA reader, maybe you'll like it, but I was not into it at all. I did try. I think I read about 300 pages of it because it's this huge book. The first one is huge, but I couldn't do it. I couldn't make myself read it. So yeah, unfortunately, those were the books that I did not finish this year, and those were my disappointing reads. I did like all of my disappointing reads though. It wasn't like they were terrible. They were okay. So yeah, thank you so much for watching. I hope that you have a lovely day. Please tell me what are some of the books that you did not finish, or some of the books that disappointed you this year, and bye.